Welcome to Business Over Beer, where entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people passionate about what they do bring us their stories and their favorite beer. Hosted by Ben Surratt, Jonathan Kaler, and Jason Knope, it's time to get down to business and drink some beer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the second biggest podcast in the Pacific Northwest. Folks, I don't know what to tell you. We're coming to the end of the year 2021, almost kind of, and we're still number 2 in the Pacific Northwest. But I know for a fact that this episode right here will bring us to the pinnacle, and we will reign supreme in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, this is Business Over Beer podcast. I'm your co-host, Ben Surratt. Alongside me via Zoomiverse, is the man of the hour, the terror of power. Some people call him the space cowboy. Some people call him man bun. Some people call him the Crater Lake Owl Monster. But we, of course, know him as Spartacus. Jonathan Kaler, happy Saturday.
Yeah, man. I figured you'd come up with something kitschy like Sudsy Saturday or something. I'm a little disappointed that you just said Saturday. We don't do a lot of podcasting on Saturdays, dude. Well, hoot, my good man. The owl is here. Spartacus has led you here, my friend, and very excited to be podcasting with you all. We've got a great guest, and making Hazeldale great again. Next to me, across the Zoom, is the gift that keeps on giving. We affectionately know him as that gangsta of Hazeldale. Are you guys down with the KNOPP?
Yeah, you know me.
Jason Knope, welcome to Business Over Beer, my friend. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic. It's a great day. The weather's great. Perfect weekend. Got to watch a couple soccer games with no rain.
Did you get that little political reference I shot your way? I don't know if you caught that or not. That might have been a little bit over the respect the head.
I don't have any hair to catch that phrase in, so I mean, just
gotcha.
Kind of went right over. But yeah, no, it's a great weekend. It's I've been waiting this week to have a beer as well, so took it easy, kind of like you. And Crater Lake Owl Monster. I am ready to crack open a beer, have a great conversation with Kim Harless about Vancouver, Washington, the local area. She is a city council candidate in our area, and we're looking forward to talk with her. Kim, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It is beautiful outside.
Gorgeous.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you so much for joining us. So part of me is glad that this will air after the campaign, so you can't blame it on us if things go south. Of course, if you emerge victorious, then we could have taken credit for it. So we're kind of betting on the come here a little bit. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But in all seriousness, we're so thankful that you spend a little bit of time with us, and appreciate you coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the invite.
Of course. Well, we always like to kind of start with your business. So we'll get into your business here a little bit. Maybe give us sort of the 50,000 foot view of maybe Kim Harless, the candidate. And I know you want to kind of get into, your day job a little bit as well. So just kind of throw that as an open conversation for you. Just, sort of the high level about Kim and who you are and what you're into.
Yeah, thank you. So a little bit about me. I grew up most of my life here in Vancouver, Washington. I went to Sifton Elementary, Covington Middle School, Heritage High School, and then on to become a Penguin at Clark College and then a Cougar at WSUV. My entire adult life has been dedicated to public service. It's just in my blood, whether it's volunteer work or working for nonprofits or government agencies. And that's what gives me so much life and dedication to this community. And then, I can go on and on about that, but I'll leave it to some questions later. But my day job is I work for a nonprofit called Pink Care. And I know there's a lot of services that we offer that would be good for small businesses to know about. And it's primarily providing free service to get rid of waste paint. So your latex paint, your oil-based paints, if you run across paints at your business that you're like, where did these come from? Or you're in a business that, you run across a lot of waste paint, I have some free options for you to get rid of it.
That is really cool. Yeah, I think both commercially and individually, we all have that, right? We've all got garages filled with paint, and you move into a new house and they're all there. So I can certainly see the benefit of some of that service. So looking forward to getting into more of that, but of course, getting into your candidacy and kind of your why you wanted to run for council and where this desire for public service comes from. But Kim, this is the Business Over Beer podcast. This is the beer portion of the program. We ask all of our guests to bring a beer to share. Kim, Harless, have you brought us a beer to share?
Yeah, I picked something up. So a little bit about me is I used to drink a lot of beer. But these days I'm so busy that usually I go into a place and I look for either a really catchy title or name of a beer. So like Ghost Runners has their fluffy pink unicorn or something like that. Like I just love the name. So I will drink that whenever I'm over there. Or it has really great artwork. And so I really quickly had to pick something out. And since it is Halloween season, which is one of my favorite holidays, and it has to be a local beer, local small craft beer. So like I just, very quickly got to grab something. So this Black Raven, I've got so much reflection. There you go. Yay. I love crows. Absolutely love those animals. Part of me thinks that they might be like the next evolutionary advanced species, because they can do multiple steps. They're highly intelligent. And maybe one day after we kill ourselves all off, the crows, might evolve and become the next species of advanced animals. So
they'll certainly laugh at us.
Yes,
that's right. Awesome. Well,
cool.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to get into this and see what we think. So we were mentioning all of your certificates and diplomas there on the wall. Clearly, she has come to play, Ben. I hope we brought our big brains because we got our hands full today, I think.
Kim, I think you were the second or third person who said that the artwork is very important when they pick out a beer. I can't remember who else that was, but I've heard that like probably 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah, and I really like this one. I really love crows and ravens.
Look at that beer. That is beautiful. Look at that, Ben. I should take 2 weeks off from drinking more often. Look at that pour. I did it.
Should.
I'm sorry it's so difficult for you, Kaylor.
I know. What can you say? Prost, everybody.
Prost.
I forgot to bring a glass into my office, so I'm just going to straight
Just
from
drink it from the can. It's fine. Well, that's good.
So in all transparency, we've had this on the show. You're the second person to bring this beer.
Wow.
Mark Tim from Columbia Credit Union brought this beer.
I bank there, so.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There you go. There's a connection. But it's our third time we've had Black Raven. I think it was a mystery beer.
I think it was a mystery beer as well. I was going to go look it up and I ran out of time, but it's and I think we talked about this the first time we had it. It is like the quintessential like old-timey West Coast IPA. It is just a massive hop bomb.
Yep.
It's super bitter. Just explodes on the palate. So I mean, if you don't like hops, you will not like this beer. Fortunately, I like hops. I mean, it's bitter. It's a hop bomb.
It's delicious though.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not
it's
too.
easy.
It's not too piney. Sometimes it gets too piney, and I'm like, I can have one or two of those, and I got to change it up. But this is really well balanced. Yeah, see, it's really
Yes.
well balanced.
I would agree. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I used to drink a lot of IPA and then I steered clear, and I like it's just an easy drinking thing these days. Probably because my life is so busy. I just want something smooth to just kind of sail on. But this is surprisingly still pretty easy to drink. So even though it is very hoppy, it doesn't have that like really astringent aftertaste. So I like it.
Yeah, that's a good catch, because it's all up front. It doesn't finish super bitter or finish, really it finishes more dry than anything.
Yeah. So fun fact here, it was Iggy Odigazuwa's
It was Iggy.
It was a guest beer they brought.
Oh, was it his?
Yeah.
He brought the other Black Raven beer.
Yeah.
Got it.
But you like this beer, huh, Canope?
I do. It's tasty.
Wow.
It's I don't think it's too bitter, oddly enough. Maybe it's just the balance of it. Usually I would think a beer like this would be pretty bitter for me, but I enjoy it. I can drink a couple of these easy.
Well, excellent choice.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming on the show. This is great.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
So I have a bunch of questions to ask you, but like the first one is how did you get into politics? How did you decide, hey, I'm going to run for office of something?
Yeah, definitely didn't. Well, there's sort of two stories. Because I am currently an elected official, but then there's the story of why I'm running for city council right now. And we'll find the results when this airs, whether or not I'll be your city councilor too. But I never envisioned myself to be like this as a natural introvert, and pretty not shy, but a little reclusive maybe person. I just never really saw myself in the spotlight and not feeling comfortable there. However, I do have a really strong desire for the world to be a great place for everybody, and especially in my community. And I know that I've been told that what's inspiring is just I don't like to stand on the sidelines when I see injustice happening, or when I see that there's an opportunity for life to be better for folks, to just sit around or just kind of be like, well, someone else will pick that up, right? Someone else will figure that out. And I am not someone that, again, is going to be the one like, oh, me. I want to be like in the spotlight. However, when people start asking me to do it, then I see it as an opportunity for me to do more for the community. And so the Charter Review Commission, which is what I'm doing right now, it was an opportunity to fix the issues that I saw at Clark County as an employee, and the interruption of politics infusing into the day-to-day work of employees trying to do good for the people. These are your planners, your engineers, the people that are fixing the roads, to your public health. And so I kept seeing over and over again politics changing how we serve the public, and I thought that was really corrupt and doing a disservice to our community at large. And so I got frustrated, and I saw an opportunity to change what is considered our constitution for Clark County, and maybe I could help in some way by bringing perspective. Little did I know I would be the only person of color also on that commission. It's a 15-person commission. And so that was a voice that I had to be ready to also bring to the table. So that's what got me into the Charter Review Commission, was just, my experiences on the county and feeling like I had something to bring to the table for that group that maybe others wouldn't have, being that I worked there for nearly 10 years. And saw a lot of injustices happening to employees too. And then time was going on, and because of this new elected official position I was in, I started making new connections in the political community that I didn't have before, because I mostly have done volunteer work, nonprofit work in the community. And I like to stay kind of behind the scenes. Again, I'm not the person needing the spotlight. I like being behind the scenes, making sure stuff gets done. So I started talking to folks, and I was like, hey, do you know who's running for city council? Because, really my heart is in the city of Vancouver. It's where I've grown up. It's where my heart's always been. I've been a Vantucky dork forever, and I have many necklaces and like other stuff, and like coffee cups and everything. I started asking around, and people that are the politico know everything. They were saying that giving me some tips of who might, or leads of who might be running, who might not, because I really wanted to support someone, and I really wanted to get behind someone that I felt like could really represent, the future of what the city of Vancouver could be for folks. But I wasn't seeing that, and there was rumors of a few individuals, and then people started saying, "Well, Kim, why don't you run? Because we can't find really anybody else that we feel like can bring that next sort of generation, that next new beginning that we need for the city in this very transitional time we're having." And then I started asking around, like, hey, like if I were done for city, like what do I do? Oh, I'll connect you with this person. I'll connect you with this person. And I started having conversations with folks. And then I was told, you need to wait your turn. You need to go do this for a while, because we're going to support all these other people, and it's their turn. And to me, that sounds like there's a problem, a really deep rooted problem here in the community, when we're not encouraging people to run. If we have a ballot that's 10 people long for going into the primary, that should be a good thing. That gives people choice, that gives people options. That's a true democracy. So I was like, okay. And at first I took their advice as good. And then I talked to a few people, and it was actually those allies that were like, no, Kim, like you need to do this even more now. Like, don't let somebody discourage you. They have something to gain by you not running. So you need to run. And the community wants you to run. And so I was like, okay, like I will be uncomfortable and raise my hand. That's my leadership style. So when the community asks for it, I go ahead and do it.
That's awesome.
Wow, lots to unpack there. Wait your turn. That I just every ounce of my body just clenched when I heard you say that. So that's crazy. So talk a little bit about your role in the Charter Review Commission. So I'm a Clark County resident, and until this past election, I had no idea what the Clark County Charter even was. And I think it's relatively new, isn't it? The Clark County Charter and the Commission?
Yep.
Was it just this last time, or has it been around for a few years?
Yeah, so a long while back, the people of Clark County voted to have a charter, to be a charter county, which meant having our own document of, how our government was going to be ran, having our 3 branches of government essentially at the county level. And part of that process within the charter, it says that in the first 5 years, we'll review it to make sure that we didn't miss any pieces. And those review commissioners would then propose however many they wanted, or maybe even none at all, proposed amendments to then bring to the people to vote on. And so that's what we did. We have 7 proposed amendments to our charter, aka Constitution of the county. And the voters will decide this November whether or not they want to amend our charter in those ways. And you can vote for each one's individually. It's not like you either say yes or no. So it's been 5 years that we've had the new charter implemented. And as of now, unless one of the amendments passes, it won't be for another 10 years till we review our charter again.
And so you had mentioned very intentionally that you were surprised that out of 15 charter review commissioners, you were the only person of color. And so talk a little bit about the importance of your work in equity and inclusion, and how important it is that you have a seat at this table, and what you bring to that as a person of color.
Yeah, and I mean, the conversation of color, ethnicity, all of that it's a new space for me, because I've always just been Kim, but being in this elected role, I started getting a lot of people asking more questions, or like recognizing that, oh, my background might be different. And when I worked at the county, I was involved with a number of employee organizations. Sorry if you hear the dog barking. That's my mother's little Yorkie. It barks loud, but it's very small. I noticed a lot of inequities that were happening. And so as part of the public employee-led diversity group, however, we had no teeth. We were just kind of a group in name. Nobody would support us. We had no money, no funding. It was a group of employees that were going there, really using our lunch hour to do, really, frankly, more work that the county should be doing. And then I was facing a lot of, discrimination's a hard word. It's more like just a toxic work environment, really, because the more and more I became conscious and aware of DEI principles and issues and how things can affect people, and why our turnover is so high, why our county employees are not representative of the diversity we have in Clark County. So you would think, as X amount of the population is a certain demographic, we should have that same X amount of employees. That's not the case. It's actually drastically, does not match whatsoever. And so that work led me to a lot of opportunities to get more training and just see more and more the issues that were there. And so one of the amendments that's proposed that is, I really, really, really hope gets passed, and there is an amendment to establish an office of DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, because folks think that this exists at the county, and it does not. There's nothing. Like I said, the most that's there is a bunch of employees spending their lunch hour together, with zero funding. And they've done a training, county-led training, where all employees had to do that about a year and a half ago. But that was kind of the end of it. And the county constantly says they're working on something, but they've been saying that for, at least a decade. And these are new times. And that's, I hope that amendment passes, because it's so crucially needed, because the toxic work environment that our county employees are currently in the benefits would be outstanding, because these are people that, they're building our roads, they're constructing our bridges, they're designing our systems, they're, part of our public health, and health disparities are very much, they mimic some of the racial disparities that exist in the community for other things too. And so when we don't have a public health department or roads or transportation that has those viewpoints in place, we're really doing a disservice to everyone, not just those populations, but the majority populations as well, because with different perspectives and ideas come more creative solutions. But yeah, my a little bit about my background real quick. I am Indigenous. My identity, I say I'm Indigenous first, and I'm Hispanic, and I'm also white from my father's side. And our Indigenous heritage, we are fighting for recognition. Mexico recognizes us, but the United States still continues to not recognize our existence, despite a lot of our artifacts and otherwise being in museums with the tribe's name on it. So, that's just how it goes.
Do you find that this is a tough question to ask. It's an uncomfortable question to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you find that you feel like you have to tell people what your background is? I specifically chose not to ask you what your background was, but I'm wondering, do you still feel like that's something that's expected of you, that you labeled yourself as a person of color, but then also having to actually explain what your background was? Do you still feel like that's necessary for you and other people in the BIPOC community?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own story and own background. So I, of course, only speak for myself and my own experiences.
Sure.
But growing up, a lot of people would ask me, what are you? You know, because I am multiracial. So people have a hard time putting me in a box. And even when I fill out the forms, I half the time don't know what I'm supposed to fill out because I have too many boxes to check, or I'm not allowed to check all the boxes, which is always interesting. And so I like to bring it to the forefront these days because otherwise people just place their own assumptions instead. They might assume I'm a different race than I actually am. They might assume that I'm only white, depending on how pale I am, if it's in the middle of winter. And because I am also a very light-skinned Indigenous and Hispanic woman, because we are not a monolith either, you know, and there's a thing called colorism that exists. And growing up, you know, I was told a lot, you're not actually Mexican because you don't speak Spanish, or no, you're not white because, you know, your skin is olive toned. So not always kind of growing up in these spaces of not really knowing what box I should be in. But now I realize that I'm just my own person. And, you know, that mixed mash of race and identity and culture, I explore those on my own to find my own identity. So I feel like, you know, my experience is a little different because I am multiracial and I am from an Indigenous community that has no reservation, has no culture or language that's well established because it was stolen from us. And then even my Hispanic heritage, you know, we're very light skinned, have more of a Spanish heritage than a Central American heritage. So there's so many different things.
Mm-hmm. As another person of biracial as well, do you find it important for those communities to learn more about voting and why it's important to vote, especially in the local area and their local community? Because when I'm half Black, half white, and a lot when I was growing up, even older, like 18, past the voting age, in the Black community, it wasn't talked about. Maybe once every 4 years, you'd see somebody a candidate come along and they want to help build up the community. They get elected, they disappear. Repeat. How do you, I'm going to change my question actually. How do you tell people in those communities that it's important to vote?
Yeah, it's a hard one because for so long, for so many generations, and, you know, and then that passes down to, you know, offspring, is that your vote, this system isn't for you. You know, this government wasn't designed for you. You have no place here. It's never gonna help you or have you in mind when new policies are made or changes happen. And so it's really hard to overcome that because it feels like you're trying to, you know, it's an unscalable wall, it feels like. However, times are changing and it's really exciting, you know, super exciting, especially these last few years, because I think the pandemic has really highlighted and invigorated a lot of folks. But especially at the local level. So, I mean, I think it's great when people come out because it's another presidential election. Okay, cool, great. But that has so little impact on your day-to-day life than your local elections, because these are your sheriffs, these are your police, these are your roads, your parks, your all of everything that you interact on a day-to-day basis is your local city leaders, county councilors, port commissioners. I mean, you name it, all those local levels that often a lot of those folks even run unimposed. And we need to make sure that people vote every single year in every single election. And I think that's where, you know, I hope folks like myself and other people can show, at least in the Vancouver community, hey, there's someone that at least looks like you that's on the city council, because so far since 1970, we have not had any color at all. And so I hope, if anything, that my election shows that there is an option, and just having that hope, I think will help folks out. But yeah, it's really that every day-to-day stuff. But I'm always constantly reminded of also voting has become or I think in a lot of people's minds, they just don't have the time. Even though it's mail ballots, even though it's, we make it so easy, which is great. We're really fortunate we're here in Washington State. But when you're so busy just trying to get food on the table, the last thing you're thinking about is who to vote for. And so we need to help people. We need to get people elected that do have the time to vote, to please elect leaders that will help the everyday American, the everyday citizen of Vancouver, because the more we can help everybody get out of poverty, the more voting will actually increase and voter turnout, in my opinion, because I've been there before. I've been on food stamps and WIC and TANF and all the things. And I want to say I voted every time, but honestly, life was so difficult. I don't remember if I did or not, because those times just fly by. You're worried about how to pay rent next week, not, oh, shoot, did I get my ballot in?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it's kind of a full circle. And then if you have a system that has been designed in the past, excluding people of color, excluding certain minorities, then they're already set up to fail then. I mean, there's deeds that existed in Vancouver that in the 70s that said, no person of color shall own this property, and those exist. And so that shows like the lack of generational wealth that existed in our community. And so you have to, it's those year after year things that lead to the disparities that we see even today, even though it was a while ago, and it was still within the last, couple of decades. So we can't expect everyone to just instantly, get out of that situation.
Yeah,
I know that was like
no,
it was great.
That's fantastic, and you're right. I mean, it starts with having people that the community recognizes and relates to.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing too is Jonathan and we talk politics all the time about, I'm a great armchair, politician. But to get out there and do what you're doing, it would take literally knocking on people's doors and explaining why it's important and why it's important to you, to your neighbor, to your street, to your entire block, to your community. And it spreads like that. And that takes a lot of time.
Yes. Which we have very little of these days because we're so overworked.
Yeah. Isn't that a shame though? I mean, but that's what it takes. That's what it's going to have to take.
Yeah.
And so kudos to you for doing that, for sure.
Hey, Kim, one of the things I found really credible and sincere about you, especially to our region, is that you signed on to a fair campaign pledge. Could you maybe highlight that? Tell us a little bit more about it, why it's important, and how many candidates usually sign that pledge as well?
Yeah, so it's something that every candidate gets when they, when they actually officially sign up to run at the Department of Elections. And it is an agreement that, you're not going to run a dirty campaign, that you're not going to just be out there blasting horrible things about the opposition. And I actually really hate the word opponent, because it's like, actually, we're just all people that are trying to make the community better. We just are coming from different directions. So I'd rather say like the other person or the other candidate than opponent. But people do see it that way, as like it's a fight, right? Like there's winners and losers. And so I really like the idea of the fair campaign pledge, because I feel like a lot of people, another reason they don't vote. So like a lot of people that I talk to within my own family, they go, oh, I don't do politics, because when people think about it, they think about that stupid struggle of who's the winner and who's the loser, when really, like, we need to reclaim democracy to be where we're just trying to do what's in the best interest of the community, not what's in the best interest of our own political party or person or our own personal interests. And yeah, so that's what that pledge is about. It's not running a dirty campaign. Usually most candidates sign it, so it's a little strange that many candidates didn't for the city council race, including the other candidate for my race. So, it is what it is. whatever. I mean, but I still run my campaign the way that I feel like makes me feel good to run my campaign. And I will call things out when I see them because they deserve to be called out. But I am not going to go attack somebody because of something silly or whatever. That doesn't do a good service for our community in any way.
Love that.
So you talked about in one of your previous answers, you talked about this being a transitional time, and maybe you sort of alluded to it in one of your other answers when Ben asked his last question. But just the fact that you mentioned that this is a transitional time for our community, I'd like you to elaborate on that a little bit. Why is this a transitional time for our community?
Yeah, so we have been for a while one of the most rapidly growing, urban areas. And I think that, I mean, we had a person that was running for mayor pretty much saying, like, take back suburbia and, like, let's make sure there's no urban in Vancouver. And I think that's something that people don't realize we're in, is that we're actually becoming a very more urbanized. And so when you have a more urbanized community, you have to structure and plan it differently. And for a while now, we've been very sleepy suburban, very sprawled out, lots of parcels with lots of land. And we're not in that anymore. And we haven't been for a while. And because we haven't been accepting that, we haven't been planning appropriately. And that's why you see a lot of, the housing crisis, transportation issues, you name it, all of it's there. And so we're in that transitional time of becoming more urbanized here in Vancouver. But we're also in a transition time of, I think more people are, I hate the word woke, but like awakened to social justice and how it applies to them, that it's not just a race-based thing. It's more of like a structure or a way to look at the world and look how we relate to everybody. So I feel like we're in that transition as well, of recognizing these disparities in our community and how they unfortunately do fall on racial lines, and it's about acceptance and moving forward instead of arguing about the data. So we're in a lot of transitions as far as that goes.
What role do you see yourself playing as city councilwoman, or maybe more broadly, what impact or role does the city council itself, how does it impact these issues in a positive way? Because these are obviously really important issues in our community and of course all across this country. What does the city council do to impact, a couple of those issues? And how do you see yourself playing that out as city councilwoman?
Yeah, so a lot of people have asked me, well, why don't you run for county council? And because that has more of a public health, impact, because the county is actually delegated the responsibility of public health, and that's where a lot of my passion is. However, the county council in its current makeup and current setup, I am not going to join something where it's going to be my one vote against however many people. City council is a place where I feel like I can make the biggest contribution and actually get the biggest impact. City, it handles, so if you're within city limits, a lot of the services that the county would provide, the city now does. Not all of them. So again, public health is one of those ones that's still delegated to the county. Elections are still county. There's a few other ones too. But there's police. So police is a really, hot topic right now, has been for the last few years. And public safety and what public safety looks like. That's where the city can play a huge impact, or I can, as a city councilwoman. And also affordable housing. We have a lot of different levers we can use, and promote different options for folks. It's also transportation, and multimodal transportation options, bike lanes, all those sort of things. And what I feel like I'm going to be able to bring is the ability of having the actual lived experiences of having to use what is not the majority system. So I've gone through my life of when I was raising my son when he was little, having to ride the bus with a small child is very, very difficult. Having to get to college with a bus and a small child is very, very difficult. And so I have a lot of those perspectives that I can bring that our city council right now, I can't speak for all of them, but I know that a lot of those perspectives and actual lived experiences are missing. And so what we see is when we don't have people in those positions of power, they make decisions that they think would work, but because they don't have the actual experience, they don't fully understand what the actual impact's going to be and how that may or may not actually help anybody. So that's what I would be able to bring, and also the courage. I feel like most of the city council has really good hearts. They just don't know how to act or be courageous on some issues. And so I hope to be able to be that voice to make bold moves that we need to do, because frankly, we're very, very behind as far as the city goes.
What's one thing that you would like, that top of your head right now, like that people aren't being, that you would be really good at focusing on, and where other people in the past have shied away from?
Well, climate change is a big one. We have done pretty much nothing. Why is it that most of our city buildings don't even have like solar on them or anything? It's not a wise investment of monies. And I have an environmental science background. We have not had somebody with I don't think, frankly, a science background on our city council. So that is like my most comfortable, most highest experience that is currently lacking from our city council is a scientific perspective.
Good one. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to get a little more into your platform. I do want to dig more into your day job. I also think it's interesting that you have to have a day job and be a city council person as well. So maybe we'll get into a little bit of that also in part 2. But before we get to all of that, Ben, you look thirsty.
I am thirsty.
I knew it.
Join us next week for part 2 of this episode. You can be sure we'll be talking more business and drinking more beer. Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Idiocracy by Christian Leo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Business Over Beer, a TH3 Entertainment production.